Hey everyone, welcome to my review of the new Tyranid Codex. Isn't that awesome? As always, my name is Jay, and I'll be going through this entire codex. I think I'm going to do my entire codex review in one video because there is just a lot to cover, but I decided, you know what, rather than breaking up into tons of pieces, I might as well just do one video and tell you all my thoughts. So overall, I really like the codex. I think some things got nerfed, perhaps unnecessarily, but yeah, that's okay. Something got really better, much better, and I think Tyranids, the biggest problem with Tyranids to me before is they had a big problem against armor, because there was a lot of armies had answers to monster creatures with a lot of weapons with a lot of high D values like las cannons, meltas, etc., which would take out the monster creatures. That being said, Tyranids couldn't really take out armor. They didn't have access to a lot of D-, like the Swarm Lords, D6 wounds, D6, DD6 on his attacks, and a couple of other things. So it's good. Overall, I think this is an improvement of Codex. They nerfed the Swarm Lord a little bit. Overall, they added a lot of different ways that you can run the army, which is cool. From a guy who likes to play Tyranids, it makes me happy because now there's a bunch of different ways to run these things. DAC FXs are going to be, I think, the spammed thing of this army, other than maybe Gene Seer spam as well, which I love the fact that they're back to being good. But DAC FXs are insanely cheap, and I really think that they're going to be powerful. And I don't know how long they'll be sold out for on the Games Workshop website because they're going to be fun to bring. There were some points changes. Now, between the index, 2, and this codex, not a whole lot changed in points cost. Anything that did change in points cost went up. That being said, a lot of the upgrades and a lot of the melee weapons went down in cost, which balances out the increased points costs. Most things stayed the same. In the codex, there were 2 units taken out of the codex because both of them had... The weird thing is they both had access to you could build them using forgeable parts, but Sky Slasher Ripper Swarms are gone, and not Harpies, I was going to say, Shrikes. Tyranid Warrior Shrikes are gone as well, which is a little bit annoying because I was hoping that they'd make them better eventually enough to play, and now they're gone. So they're no longer in the codex. What they did replace, they didn't really replace many notes. What else? The Maliceptor got moved to an HQ choice, which is cool because he is a character. No, he's no longer an upgrade to a squad of Zoanthropes, so of course now you can give him some hilarity when it comes to Zoanthropes. And they had some, of course, Warlord traits, of course, bioartifacts, Hive Mind, Discipline, Psychic Powers, Stratagems, Hive Fleet adaptations, which I'd like to start off with. The Hive Fleet adaptations are really cool. So basically they've added 7 Hive Fleet adaptations, and you just choose whichever Hive Fleet you want, providing you're running a Tyranid list. And first of all, extensions of the Hive Mind. If your army's Battleforge, all troop units in Tyranid detachments gain this ability. Such a unit, basically it's the objective secured. And then Hive Fleet adaptations. There's Behemoth, which is hyper aggression. You can reroll failed charge rolls for units in this adaptation. That's huge. That's one of the ones I think I'll be taking a lot depending on my army. If I'm running Gene Stealers, that's one of the ones I'm debating about taking. The other one is Kraken. When a unit with this adaptation advances, roll 3 dice instead of 1, pick the highest to add the move characteristic of all models in the unit for that movement phase. In addition, such units can fall back and charge in the same turn. So that's huge. I think that's probably my favorite one if you're running a super aggressive army. Because if they get charged, they can easily just back up and then charge again. Huge, right? Which means they go first, and sometimes they get more attacks, and sometimes they get some bonuses to that too. Leviathan, Synaptic Imperative, roll a d6 each time a unit with this adaptation loses a wound, and while there are 6 inches of a friendly Synapse unit from the same Hive Fleet. On a 6-up, the damage is ignored and the unit does not lose a wound. Ignore the adaptation on a unit that is currently affected by Catalyst, the psychic power. Cool. So that's kind of cool. It's a 6-up Feel No Pain. I don't think it's going to be as useful as Kraken or Behemoth. Now, if you're running like tons of little guys like Tyranid, like Hormagaunts and Termagaunts, that actually could be a lot of fun. Because rather than casting Catalyst on them, they just have a 6-up, feel no pain essentially. That'd be kind of cool. Kind of cool. Gorgon, adaptive toxins. You can reroll wound rolls of 1 in the fight phase units with this adaptation. Again, could be potentially good with Gene Stealers, with Hormigons, with any wounds on it too, really. So, Trigon Primes will be good with this one. Really anything. With Crushing Claws, that's a good one. I think it's called Ormagander. A unit with this adaptation, other than units that can fly, so no flyrants, always have the benefit of cover for the purpose of shooting attacks. If this unit advances or charges, however, it loses the benefit of this adaptation until the start of your next movement phase. Cool. So your monster creatures are running around with 2-up armor saves. Cool. And it improves everyone. That being said, if you're up against armies like Imperial Fists, they ignore the benefit. So, circumstantial. But that's a really good one, a really defensive one. Hydra. You can reroll hit rolls in the fight phase for units with this adaptation that target units containing fewer models than your own. Again, if you're running Gene Stealers, if you're running Hormigons, if you're running... That's pretty much it. Gene Stealers or Hormigons, or even Gaunts, really. Reroll hit rolls in the fight phase is huge. So again, there's tons of choices here. I don't even know which one I'm going to choose for my first battle report that I film. But hit rolls of 1 in the fight phase is kind of funny. No, sorry, hit rolls in general. So imagine with Gene Stealers, you jump in with 80 attacks, like you get 20 Gene Stealers in close combat, 4 attacks each. Hitting on 3s, reroll. That would be pretty nasty. Yeah, pretty nasty. But it has to contain fewer models than their own. So that's the challenge, because it'll never work with a monster creature, or it has to be a large squad attacking a smaller squad. Chronos. You can reroll hit rolls of 1 for units with this adaptation in the shooting phase that did not move in preceding movement phase. Cool. So if you're running, which we'll talk about in here, Tyrannifex spam or Exocrine spam, that may be what you want to run with, because now since they can shoot twice, that's good. Now, to be fair, both Exocrines and Tyrannifexes both got more expensive significantly, so we'll talk about them when they come up as well. But yeah, so that's cool. So good choices there. The stratagems, a lot of them are very circumstantial. Of course, with most stratagems they are. My favorite stratagem by far is, because for 2 CP, use the stratagem in the shooting phase. Select a Tyranid monster from your army. Increase the damage of its attacks by 1 for this shooting phase. So, Dakafexes, or Flyrants with Twin Link Devourers, which got amazing, because now they're 24 shots like they should have been all along. Huge, right? Because now you have a Tyranid Hive Tyrant with 24 shots, right? Hitting on 2s or 3s, with strength 6 guns that are D2. That would do a lot of damage. That would eat through, like, even Primaris Marines, right? That would go through several of them. So that'd be a pretty fun power. Now it is 2 CP, but if you build your army correctly, like, there is a way. I've done a few situations where you could build with 3 different detachments, right? 3 different battalion detachments, even depending on your list at 1,500 points. It's pretty easy to get in a bunch of troops when you have access to Termagants as troops. 4-point models. Bring 3 squads of 10, 120 points as attacks, and then you get a Flyrant, and it's gonna be nuts. It's gonna be crazy. So tons of ways to use CPs. There's Psychic Barrage. Use a stratagem in the psychic phase. Now this is really very circumstantial. People keep talking about this one. But if a Zoanthropes unit that's consisting of at least 3 models is within 6 inches of 2 other units of Zoanthropes containing at least 3 models, so if you're running 9 Zoanthropes. If you do so, Zoanthropes cannot take any psychic test this phase. Instead, select a point on the battlefield that was within 18 inches of it and visible to all 3 units, so that really narrows down things as well. Roll a dice for each unit, friendly or foe, within 3 inches of that point. Add 1 to the result if the unit is being rolled over as 10 or more models, but subtract 1 if the unit is for character. On a 4-up, that unit suffers 3d3 mortal wounds. So huge, but again, very circumstantial. Caustic Blood is 1 CP, and select a Tyranid unit from your army. This is at the start of the fight phase. The fight phase, roll dice whenever a model in that unit is destroyed. For each roll of 6, the enemy unit that inflicted the final wound on that model suffers a mortal wound. Cool. Rapid Regeneration. I like this one. This is kind of cool. Use the stratagem at the end of your movement phase. Select a Tyranid model from your army. Regains D3 wounds lost during the battle. So it can help you heal a Hive Tyrant or important character. Scorch Bugs is a stratagem when a Tyranid unit from your army is selected to attack in the shooting phase. You can add 1 to the wound rolls made for that unit's flesh borer or hive attacks in that shooting phase. That's pretty cool. So, yeah, like Gaunts, There's Feeder Tendrils. Use the stratagem when a Gene Stealer, now this is cool, it's 1 CP, but I'm going to use this whenever I play Gene Stealers. Use the stratagem when a Gene Stealer, Lictor, Toxic, or Venom Throat of your army kills a character in the fight subphase. Gain D3 command points. So you either might gain it back and potentially gain back more. There's Implant Attack. Use the stratagem after a Tyranid unit from your army fights in the fight phase. Roll a dice for each enemy model that was wounded by any of this unit's attacks and not slain. On a 2-up, the model suffers a mortal wound. Cool. Helps you take down a character that might have survived. Bounty of the Hive Fleet, 1 CP/3 CP. Use the stratagem before the battle. Your army can have 1 extra bio artifact for 1 CP, or 2 extra bio artifacts for 3 CPs. Cool. All bio artifacts that you include must be different and must be given to different Tyranid characters. You can only use this stratagem once per battle. Metabolic Override. So it's 1 CP. Use this stratagem in your movement phase. After moving a Tyranid unit from your army, you can make a second move with that unit, including advancing if you wish. But when you do so, roll a dice for each model in that unit. On a 1, inflict a mortal wound to the unit, and you cannot shoot or make a charge move that turn. So you can't do it with your Gene Stealers, for example, to get more movement. There's Single-Minded Annihilation. It's a lot of things. Use a stratagem. It's 2 CP. Use a stratagem at the end of your shooting phase. Select a Tyranid's infantry unit from your army. That unit can immediately shoot again. So that's pretty cool. Once again, if you have a bunch of Gaunts, you can use 2 CP or whatever you want to fire again. Grisly Feast, 1 CP. Use the stratagem in the morale phase. Select a unit of Ripper Swarms or Harrispacks from your army. That opponent must add 1 to the morale test taken for enemy units that are within 6 inches of that unit in the phase. Okay. 2, Pathogenic Slime, as I mentioned. Awesome. I think I'm going to use that every turn with a DAC effects or a Hive Tyrant with twin Devourers, or 2 sets of 2 Devourers, so 24 shots. That's nasty. Very nasty. Sporefield, 3 CP. Use stratagem after both armies have been deployed but before the battle begins. You can add up to 2 units of Spore Mines to your army as reinforcements and set them up anywhere on the battlefield that is more than 12 inches from your enemy points. I think, because it's a CP, I don't know, people are debating about this right now. I personally think that doesn't count as reinforcement points in your army. Like, do you have to pay for them ahead of time just to set them up? Because then that makes no sense. What's the point of costing yourself 3 CP out of your 3 to 6 that you'll normally have in a game just to put in reinforcements that you already have, that you've paid for? Doesn't make any sense to me. 1 CP, Invisible Hunter. Use a stratagem in your movement phase. Select a Lictor from your army that's within 1 inch of any unit. That model can fall back, shoot, and charge this turn. Cool. 1 CP, Power of the Hive Mind. Use a stratagem at the end of your Psychic phase. Select a Tyranid Psychic unit from your army that manifests Psychic Power this turn. You can immediately attempt to manifest 1 additional Psychic Power this turn. Again, huge with Smite and one of the other Psychic Powers over. So that's pretty cool. That's good. So a Hive Tyrant can cast 3 Psychic Powers. Works for me. Pheromone Trail. Use a stratagem when a Tyranid's infantry unit from your army is set up with a battlefield as reinforcements. If there is already a Lictor from your army on the battlefield, you can set up the unit wholly within 6 inches of the Lictor and more than 9 inches away from any enemy models, rather than following the normal rules for setting up that unit. Death Frenzy, 2 CP. Use a stratagem when a Tyranid character from your army is slain. The Hive Mind compels it to make 1 final attack. It can immediately either shoot as if it were the shooting phase, or fight as if it were the fight phase before it is removed from the battlefield. Once again, Hive Tyrant, Carnifex, or the Swarm Lord. Pretty nasty, right? Stormlord in close combat, you take it down, it fights again. Pretty cool. Overrun. Use a stratagem when a Tyranid's unit from your army destroys a unit in the fight phase and is not within 3 inches of an enemy unit. Instead of consolidating, that unit can move and advance as if it were the movement phase. It cannot move within 1 inch of any enemy models. So that's pretty cool. Consolidate way, far away. 1 CP, Voracious Appetite. Use a stratagem in the fight phase when Tyranid's monster or character from your army is chosen to attack. You can reroll all failed wound rolls for that model until the end of the phase. Cool. So, once again, pretty awesome. Swarmlord. Or any close combat monster creature, like even a Turvagon could do well in that case. Or Hive Tyrant that's kitted out to be pretty attacky, The enemy below, use a stratagem. It's 1 CP when you set up a Hormagander infantry unit during deployment. It is set up within tunnels board below battle. Whenever you set up a unit of Raveners, Moloch, Trigon, or Trigon Prime at the end of your movement phase, you can also set up any number of units you set up. You can also set up any number of units you set up within the tunnels. Set up the unit wholly within 3 inches of the burrowing unit and more than 9 inches away from any enemy units. Any models you cannot set up in this way are destroyed. 1 CP, Brute Force. Use a stratagem when a Behemoth unit from your army completes a charge move. Roll a dice for each model in the charging unit that is within 1 inch of the enemy unit. For each roll of 6 or 2+ for a monster, inflict 1 mortal wound on an enemy unit within 1 inches. Cool. And I'm guessing that it's 2 up for a monster as if you're rolling against a monster or if you are a monster. I don't know. 1 CP, War on all fronts. Use a stratagem in the fight phase. Select an enemy unit that is within 1 inch of at least 1 Leviathan unit from your army that can fly and at least 1 that cannot. Very circumstantial. You can reroll hit and wound rolls of 1 in the phase of attacks for Leviathan units that target that enemy unit. So, very circumstantial. Call the Brood. 3 CP. Use a stratagem at the end of your movement phase. Add a new unit up to 5 Gene Sealers to your army and set them up as reinforcements wholly within 6 inches of a Broodlord or infestation node from your army and more than 9 inches away from enemy models. Once again, debate about it if you will. Do you have to pay for the Gene Sealers ahead of time? If so, no point to this one. Adrenaline Surge. 3 CP. Use a stratagem at the end of the fight phase. Select a Tyranid's unit in your army. That unit can immediately fight again. Pretty awesome. The Deepest Shadow. Use a stratagem when an enemy Psyker attempts to manifest a psychic power within 24 inches of a Chronos unit from your army. Your opponent can only roll a single dice for that psychic test. Cool. Hypertoxicity. Use a stratagem in the fight phase. Choose a Gorgon unit from your army that has the Toxin Sac Biomorph. For the duration of the phase, the Toxin Sac Biomorph causes 1 additional damage on all wounds of 5 up rather than the normal 6 up. Protects me with that unit. Endless Swarm. Here's another one of the cool, potentially cool CP ones, but use a stratagem at the end of the movement phase. Select a unit of Termagants, Hormagaunts, or Gargoyles from your army that has been, or any Hydra infantry unit from your army that has been completely destroyed. Add an identical unit to your army and set it up as reinforcements wholly within 6 inches of any board edge more than 9 inches from enemy models. Do you have to pay for that ahead of time in like a 1,500 point game or in a tournament? That's what I'm saying, because if you have to pay for the points ahead of time, it would make no sense. Wouldn't you want both squads on the table rather than one gets destroyed? And then, you know what I'm saying. Opportunistic Advance. Use a stratagem in your movement phase. When you roll a dice for your advancing Kraken unit, you can double the number you roll and add that total number, the move characteristic for the movement phase rather than following the normal rules for advancing. Cool. That was specifically a Kraken stratagem. Digestive Denial. Use a stratagem. It's 2 CP. After deployment, but before the first battle round begins, choose a piece of terrain other than the fortification. Units fully within that one piece do not gain any bonus to their saving throws being covered. So cool. And now Psychic Powers. Might as well cover the Psychic Powers of this army. They're pretty much the standard ones. Dominion, Catalyst, the Horror, Onslaught, Paroxysm, Psychic Scream. Dominion is a warp charge of 5. If manifests a friendly unit, Tyranid unit within 36 inches of the Psyker that has an instinctive behavior ability unit until the end of the next psychic phase, that unit ignores its instinctive behavior ability and automatically passes morale test. Now, that's also the thing. So instinctive behaviors got changed So now it's no longer as crazily bad as it was before. But now it's just unless there's a high fleet unit unless a high fleet unit with this ability is within 24 inches of a friendly synapse unit, you must subtract 1 from any hit rolls made when it shoots any target, and you must subtract 2 from any charge roll. So that's not too bad as well. It allows you much more control. It used to be if you weren't in synapse, you were destroyed, basically, and you lose the game. Of course, synapse being any model within 12 inches, which it was knocked down at 8 originally there. It made no sense. Automatically passes morale tests. And Shadow in the Warp, enemy psychers must subtract 1 from any psychic test they make within 8 inches of any units with this ability. So that's huge. Huge. Catalyst is a 5-up Feel No Pain. Warp charge of 6, 18-inch range. Horror, warp charge value of 6. If manifests, select a unit within 24 inches that is visible to the psyker. Units until the start of your next psychic phase, that unit must subtract 1 from their hit roll and leadership characteristics. That's pretty cool. I think I'd take that a few times too. Especially with like Broodlords. I don't know, Broodlords and Catalyst would be pretty nasty too. See, a lot of choice with the psychic powers. Hive Tyrants with a few of these things would just be really nasty. Onslaught, you can run and shoot as normal. You can advance and shoot. Warp charge 6. Paroxysm, warp charge value of 5. Manifested, choose an enemy unit within 18 inches of the psyker. Until the next psychic phase, the unit cannot fight in the fight phase until all other units that are able to have done so. That's pretty cool. Psychic Scream. Psychic Scream has a warp charge value of 5. If manifested, the nearest enemy unit within 18 inches suffers D3 mortal wounds. In addition, if that unit is a psyker, roll 2 dice. If the result is higher than their leadership characteristic, randomly select one of their psychic powers. They can no longer cast that psychic power. So, cool. That's going to be fun too. So, psychic powers in general. I don't really care for Dominion. You might be circumstantial. Catalyst is always awesome. Cast Catalyst on anything makes them more survivable. Gene Stealers, 5 ups. Nice, right? Even Gaunts. You have 5 up basically 5 up involved Gaunts makes it hugely more survivable. The Horror is cool. It's to hit rolls, effects are to hit rolls, so you can really nerf something that you really don't want to shoot, especially if you're up against like a guard. Onslaught, I've never really used Onslaught. I know some people do. I just really don't have any use for it with my army that I build. Paroxysm, it's pretty cool, but I don't know if you're getting the assault off. And Psychic Scream, which I really like Psychic Scream, especially in combination with Smite. Psychic Scream, warp charge value of 5, manifested D3 mortal wounds to the closest enemy unit. You could fly your Flyrant, cast Psychic Scream, or Deep Strike him now that he can fly. So now that the Flyrant can Deep Strike, it'd be pretty nasty. D3 mortal wounds is pretty good. And then you cast Smite. So it's pretty fun. I'm pretty sure they all know Smite. Yeah. So that's pretty cool. So if you are in, Gene Stealer, Broodlords can do it, Tervagons, it'd be pretty nasty. So I really like Catalyst. I really like Psychic Scream, and then the other ones can be very circumstantial. Horror could be purposeful. Onslaught can be have its purpose. Paroxysm can have its purpose, and Dominion can have its purpose. But I really like Catalyst and Psychic Scream. What are your favorites? Leave comments in the comment section down below. Cool. So that's those things. So let's go over the army itself. So as I mentioned, they've really tweaked the way that the army has. Now you have options of what type of swarm you want to run, what high fleet you want to run, which is great. And they've made a lot of smart rules changes. Synapse works so much more intuitive than it did before and much better. And it used to be basically, if you were a Tyranid player, your opponent would just kill your Synapse creatures. And then that's game. Basically, if your Synapse creatures were dead, you would die. You lose all control of your army and it would be hilarious. So now, as I said, it's actually much greater. I'm going to focus more on changes in this codex. Now, I don't want to do a full codex review, but there is so much information in this codex that I have to cover really what the big changes to the codex. I'll cover anything that got changed and what way. So we'll go through each unit, but I'm only going to really stop and focus at what's changed between this and the index, because as you guys know, there's been full reviews on the indices as well. So yeah, we'll go over everything. So the Broodlord. Broodlord didn't change really at all. It's still 8 power. It is a 162 points. You want to run these guys with Gene Stealers. They're awesome. You know, they have their Synapse, they have Shadow and Warp, they can take a Psychic Power plus Smite, and that's pretty cool. Yeah, as I said, you can add 1 to hit rolls in the fight phase for high fleet Gene Stealer units that are within 6 inches of any friendly Broodlord unit. That's cool. And of course, use Monstrous Grinding Claws, which you can reroll failed wound rolls for this weapon. In addition, each time you roll a 6+, that hit is resolved with an AP of -6 and damage of 3. Hive Tyrants. Now, Hive Tyrants, the big change to Hive Tyrants in this codex, no points real changes. Now, some of their war gear did get cheaper. Like Monster Creature Crushing Claws, I believe, got cheaper. Some other things got cheaper. The big cool new thing is if you have wings, you can Deep Strike. So that's cool. Now, the reason why I like that a lot is I don't Deep Strike enough, but you really should. If you're worried that your opponent is going to get off the first turn, Deep Strike. Right? You have to set up 9 inches away from your opponent. Now, a Hive Tyrant can only move 16 inches per turn. So let's say your Hive Tyrant's at the front lines, which isn't very likely. Your opponent is still going to be, after he moves, still 8, 9, maybe 10 inches away. So Deep Striking doesn't remove your distance and allows you to be defensive. So your opponent can't really pot shot kill your Hive Tyrant turn 1. You know, especially run multiple Hive Tyrants. They drop in turn 1, regardless of who goes first. You can drop them in wherever you want, surround them with other guys. I think a great synergy here would be Gargoyles. Drop them in with a squad of Gargoyles who can Deep Strike as well, and then have some fun. Again, Smite, Paroxysm, that would be cool. Catalyst, just cast Catalyst on squad of Gargoyles. Psychic Scream, huge, right? You can drop them in, Smite, and Psychic Scream your opponent, and that would lead to hilarity. You can kill stuff. Lots of stuff. And the great thing about Hive Tyrant as well is that they also, of course, once again, they fixed Devourers, so you get 24 shots as opposed to 12. So Hive Tyrants with 2 sets of Twin Devourers, or sorry, Twin Devourers, are going to be awesome because their weapon skill at the beginning of the game is 2 up. Sorry, the Ballistic Skill is 3 up. Sorry, I apologize. Ballistic Skill is 3 up. So they're hitting on 3s. Nice, right? Hitting on 3s. That's a lot of shots, 24 shots. And if you use that stratagem that I mentioned, you're going to get 24 shots that are D2. Strength 6, D2. That's going to kill some stuff. Yeah. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, just tons of shots. And of course, their Synapse range is 18 inches as opposed to 12. Huge, great buff. Now they did lose an attack. That's okay. I still think Hive Tyrants, you know what? Some people may really want to run a Hive Tyrant that's close combat friendly. I think the shooting is where they really excel, especially with wings, but you could, give them Bone Sword, Lash Whip, and just fly them at your opponent. That's another option. So whatever you want to do. But you can just do a bunch of different combinations and see what works. But they're pretty nasty. They lost an attack, as I mentioned, but they made up for it in shooting abilities and increased range, and they also made them more survivable. A 4-up invulnerable save as opposed to a 5-up from the previous codex. That's huge. That's awesome. Overall, no actual points changed for them other than some of the upgrades got a little cheaper. So overall, I'm really happy with Hive Tyrants. I'm okay with forfeiting that 1 attack for getting a better invulnerable save. Keeping them alive, it's going to be hilarious. Up next, Swarmlord. Swarmlord didn't change in points. I'm pretty sure it's still 300 points. Yep. And only it really changed was 1 less attack. So now it has 6 attack base at full wounds, then goes 5 to 4. Once again, better invulnerable save, so 4-up invulnerable save, but in close combat. It does say add 1 to Swarmlord's invulnerable saves against weapons caused by melee weapons. So 3-up invulnerable save in close combat, awesome. So a Swarmlord plus Feel No Pain will be really hard to deal with, and some Tyrant Guard. you might as well just ignore him and wait for him to come by and knock him, because he's going to be hilarious. Now, they did really nerf, I think it's a pretty heavy nerf, but again, he's way more survivable to his Bone Sabers. Now they're more predictable, but now they're Strength User AP -3 D3 as opposed to be, before it used to be D6. Now, I know what you guys are thinking. There's the two trains of thought. Predictability, you're guaranteed 3 every time, which is great, but Tyranids really need that D6, that DD6 strength. Space Marines have las cannons and Melta. Tau have it, Eldar have it. Tyranids need it. They really need it, because if you run up against something that has a lot of armor, he's only strength 8, right? At full strength. He's probably not going to get to full strength when he get there, but he's probably about strength 8. So let's say he's attacking a vehicle that's toughness 7. He's going to hit with most of his attacks. Now he lost some attacks, so 4 or 5 attacks he'll hit. Only 2/3 of those will go through. And then, as I said, so you're not... If you only had 3 wounds through, your opponent can still save him, because AP -3 can roll 6 to save his life. And D3. So it's not DD3, D... 3 wounds, right? So I don't know. It's okay about the predictability. I know on average you expect 3.5 from a D6, so I don't know. I still think overall he is improved by his survivability, and a lot of these CPs that you can use, the stratagems, right? The one that if he dies, he gets to attack again, huge. So you throw him up against an opponent that's really scary. If he's about to die, let him get one last attack in, and then if he dies, he gets one last attack in, you know? So it's awesome. I really like the one where he can just make another attack, right? That's awesome too. Use the stratagem at the end of your fight phase, right? Select a Tyranid unit in their army, the unit can immediately fight again. So hypothetically then, if you use that in combination with the Stormlord, it would be pretty nasty. Now it's 3 CP, but if he's up against like a Baneblade, right? Then you get 12 attacks, hitting on 2s, wounding on 3s, or I guess Baneblade might be what times 8, so it might be 4s. Still, you know, that might do some damage. You know, that would actually do a lot of damage. So good stuff there. That could do it. That could do it. Up next, Tyranid Prime. Tyranid Prime is the nice cheap HQ if you want a cheap HQ. He's a Synapse, Tyranid Warrior, slightly better. Alpha Warrior, you can add 1 to hit rolls for all heavily warrior units that are within 6 inches of friendly Tyranid Primes. Cool. Nothing really changed with him, so I'm going to skip over. Tyranid Primes are still 100 points each. Tervagon. Up next, we have the Tervagon. Now, Tervagons did change in points costs, I believe. Yes, they got 8 points more expensive. That being said, a lot of their upgrades got cheaper. Balances out. I don't know really what to think about Tervagons right now. The big change to Tervagons in this edition is that they no longer produce gaunts after moving. It's now before moving, which kind of means the gaunts are going to impede its movement, or you have to do it behind them. That's okay. And then on top of that, I think that they have a good role in healing the Tervagons in your army. I don't like this whole, you have to pay for them ahead of time. I really don't. I've been thinking about it. The more I think about it, the more it annoys me that if I'm playing a 1,500 point game, I have to set aside 200 points in my army just for gaunts that can potentially be spawned during my game. Why would I do that, right? The whole fun point of the Tervagon was to spawn gaunts. So if I use a Tervagon, it would be as a solid Synapse creature in the back because it still has 14 wounds. It still has, it's pretty good in close combat. It only gets 3 attacks though, hitting on 4s on its best weapon skill. But I'd use it as healing gaunts, 10 a turn. So if you brought like 2 squads of 30 gaunts with 2 Tervagons, your opponent would be wise to just avoid them. But then they run around running amok, right? 30 guys getting their shots off, probably rerolling 1s to hit. And if you kill them, they just re-heal 10 of them. So that's a cool thing too. As I said, I don't really know about the Tervagon yet. I'm gonna have to think about it. Up next, we have the Neurothrope. Sorry, the Neurothrope. I said Maliceptor probably earlier as a HQ. I apologize. It's the Neurothrope that got moved to the HQ slot. Yeah, I do apologize. If I said Maliceptor a while ago, it's Neurothrope that got moved to the HQ. Once again, please don't blame my video. But the Neurothrope got moved to HQ. It is a 5-inch. Besides that, it pretty much stayed the same in points. I got a little bit more. Let me take a look here. Oh, because now it's actually its own thing. Let me see here. The Neurothrope is 70 points. So it's 70 points, and it can work well with your Zoanthropes. As Spirit Leech, each time a Neurothrope slays a model using the Smite attack, you can heal a wound on a friendly Zoanthrope within 6 inches. Warp Siphon, you can reroll rolls of 1 when taking psych tests for friendly Zoanthrope units within 6 inches of it. And that's pretty cool. So it works very well with Zoanthropes around it. A Neurothrope can attempt to manifest 2 psychic powers in each friendly phase, and deny 2. So once again, it works very well with Zoanthropes. If you're running a Zoanthrope heavy army, a Neurothrope would be the one to take. Now, up next, one of my favorite HQ changes, Old One-Eye. Old One-Eye did get more expensive. That being said, once again, the upgrades got cheaper, but Old One-Eye got more expensive. Now, the big change to Old One-Eye is he got dropped in wounds, which is usually a bad thing, but not in this edition, because now that he has 9 wounds, you can't target him unless he's the closest thing to your army, or you have Sniper. So, great stuff there. He now has 9 wounds. He's gotten a little bit more expensive. He is now, I think, 200 points. Old One-Eye is, 200 points, he's 140, plus all the upgrade, no, it's including upgrades, so yeah. So now he's just 60 points more expensive. But he's more survivable. He has Monstrous Crushing Claws, Monstrous Scything Talons, and a Thresher Scythe. He has Immortal Battering Ram. When Old One-Eye finishes a charge move, roll a dice. On a 4-up, one enemy unit within 1 inch suffers a D3 mortal wounds. In addition, add 1 to all hit rolls for Old One-Eye in the fight phase as it charged in the same turn. Cool. Alpha Leader, you can add 1 to hit rolls in the fight phase for friendly Carnifex units that are within 6 inches of this model. Berserk Rampage, each time you make a hit roll of 6 up with your Old One-Eye, you may immediately make 1 additional attack with the same weapon against the same unit. These additional attacks do not confer additional attacks. And in Regeneration, he heals himself 1 wounded turn. So cool. I think it's going to be awesome. I'm going to try him on battle reports. I have a model for him now. I'm going to paint it up. And I think it's going to be fun. I think it's going to be a really cool Carnifex model. And it's going to be more survivable. I got a little bit more expensive, of course, but Carnifexes are now dirt cheap if you want to run DAC-Effexes. And as I said, now there's a bunch of different options for DAC-Effexes that do different things. So it's going to be pretty cool. Up next we have the troops. The troops didn't change much. Tyranid Warriors are still Tyranid Warriors. They didn't change at all. Still 20 points a model. Pretty much the same points for upgrades. They're the same. Yeah, great, survivable choice. Now they still have 3 wounds. Now, but that being said, a lot of, anything that's D3 will kill them. Gene Stealers are still my favorite upgraded troop from 8th edition. I love them, especially in combination of them and a Broodlord, or them and anything Synapse. They're awesome. Especially them and Swarmlord, so that they can advance and then assault turn 1. They're awesome. I still love them. They can take Asinmaw. I think it was one of the new things, like the Asinmaw. But one of the things they did do is they gave them the potential of getting a 4-up armor as opposed to the 5-up armor. But then you forfeit the Swift and Deadly rule, which I don't think would be worth taking. And then they also added this infestation rule, so you can set up infestation nodes in your deployment zone, and they can just spawn out of those instead. Instead. I don't really like those. I know you can keep them there and they spawn out, but I think just starting them on the table, giving them feel no pain, or making my opponent deal with them. They have a 5-up invulnerable save, and they can survive. So I love combining them with Catalyst. It's pretty nasty, and I love it. Right? Because then you have Gene Stealers with 5-ups, makes them survive a lot more, and they can move. And as I said, a good turn 1, they can get into close combat with your opponent because they can move up 8, advance 6, and then if they have a Swarmlord, you can do it again and then assault. So it's pretty cool. Termagants, nothing really changed. They're still the base troop. They're great if you want to try to stack up a few detachments on top of each other. Take min squads of Termagants. Hormagaunts, awesome as well. One of the things I really loved in this edition is they brought back to hit. They can reroll to hit rolls of 1, and they can reroll to wound rolls of 1 when they fight if there's more than 20 models in the squad. Once again, they're still I believe 5 points on model. Hormigons are 5 points on model, yeah. Ripper Swarms, never used them. I don't know if I ever will. That's okay. Up next we have the Elites. The Elites are a full... The Elites and the Heavies are really full in this Codex. Fast Attack is kind of where the Codex is really weak. But let's go over the Elites. Now, the Elites' choices. Of course, you have Tyrant Guard. Tyrant Guard are really cool if you want to run a Swarm Lord. I find they're going to be very imperative. Or a close combat High Tyrant. You probably want to run a squad of Tyrant Guard because they can take the wounds from the Hive Tyrant, right? And it keeps them alive. Tyrant Guard did not change at all really in points or really anything. So I'm going to not go over them. Hive Guard. Hive Guard, I'm really happy in overall. I gotta say that they brought back the Ballistic Skill 3 up. I don't know why they were moved to 4 up last edition. It was silly. I'm glad that they're 3 up. They still have the Impaler Cannon, Heavy 2, Strength 8, AP -2, DD 3, and they can target things that are not visible to the bearer, which is pretty cool. In addition, units attacked by this weapon do not gain any bonus to saving throws for being in cover. And then they have the old wave, the Haywire version, 24 inch range, Assault D3, Strength 7, AP -1, DD 3. If the target is a vehicle and you wound roll a 4 up, the target unit suffers 1 mortal wound in addition to any other damage. You can make a wound roll of 6 up, inflict D3 mortal wounds instead. Cool. Next we have the Lictor. Now I believe the Lictor, no change in points cost. It sells Chameleonic Skin and Hidden Hunter, so you can set up in deployment 9 inches away from your opponent. Chameleonic Skin is your opponent must subtract 1 to hit rolls for that attack, and in addition add 2 instead of 1 to saving throws as model if it's in cover. The Death Leaper. Death Leaper unfortunately got nerfed pretty badly because of the new It's After Me. Really doesn't, I don't care too much about it. But the Death Leaper, did it change in points? Not really, nope. And the big change was It's After Me. It started the first battle round. But before the first turn begins, pick a character from your opposing army. You can reroll the hit rolls and wound rolls in the fights of phase for any Death Leaper's attacks that target that character. Big whoop. I don't really think that's amazing. The Death Leaper doesn't really have that much. It's a kill. I don't know. It's to me, same thing. Super Chameleonic Skin, so they have to subtract 2 to their rolls for attacks that target Death Leaper. So that's cool. You know what? It'll make him a little more survivable. In close combat, he's not that heavy of a hitter. He just has Grasping Talons and Rending Claws. Grasping Talons, Strength User, AP -1, D2. He only gets 4 attacks. Rending Claws, Strength User, AP -1, D1. For each time you run with 6 up, it's AP -4. Zoanthropes. Zoanthropes are awesome. They are the same points as before, 40 points each. But now that they can synergize with that really cool stratagem, if you really want to run 9 and turn 1, just do a crazy psychic power and cause a bunch of 3d3 mortal wounds. Cool stuff. They work very well with the Neurothrope, which, as I said, is the new HQ choice, not the Maliceptor, I think I said. I don't remember. Up next, Maliceptor. Maliceptor is still 162 points. He has massive Scything Talons, and he's cool. He's the Psychic one. So Psychic Overload instead of manifesting any psychic powers in your psychic phase, a Maliceptor can unleash brain-bursting psychic tendrils. If it does so, roll a dice for each enemy unit within 6 inches to a maximum number of units shown in the damage table above, which is on a 2+, the Maliceptor deals 1 mortal wound to that unit, but on a 6, it deals 3 mortal wounds to that unit instead. It's like barrier, 4-up, invulnerable save. Cool. Not my favorite of the Elite's choices. I really don't see myself taking a Maliceptor ever because the Elite's choices are so filled, and I just, for me, when I'm playing a Tyranid army, I always get the points filled up so quickly because there's so many things I want to take, and it gets hard. So Maliceptor, I don't ever see myself justifying, especially compared to the other Psychers, High Tyrants, Broodlords, Zoanthropes. They're all amazing. Swarm Lord even. There's just so many psychic, Trigon Prime, is just, there's so many Psychers that I think would do better than that one. That's just my opinion. What do you think? Up next, Venomthropes. Venomthropes got a little bit more expensive, 5 points more expensive, and it is still, they're defensive, right? They have the Shrouding Spores, -1 to hit against any enemy. So if your enemy unit targets a model within 6 inches of them for ranged weapons, it's -1 to hit. And then if they're within a squad of 6 models, it's a 9-inch range, right? So, okay, they're more defensive. I like that too, but now that cover's been really heavily nerfed, I don't see myself wanting to take them as much. Pyrovores. Pyrovores are cool. Was there any real change to Pyrovores? I don't remember if they were in the previous Pyrovore. Let's take a look here. Sorry, I forgot to write down the Pyrovore points. So, Pyrovores. 23 points, and now they are, I don't think there was a change to them. 38 points. Oh, sorry, I'm wrong. There was a change. That's what I made a note of it. That's why I want to look at the Pyrovores are 38 points now. They have the Flame Spurt, 10-inch range, Assault D6, Strength 5, AP -1, D1, automatically hits a target, so cool. Acid Blood, each time the model uses a wound in the fight phase, roll a dice on a 6-up. The unit that inflicted the damage suffers a mortal wound after all the attacks have been resolved. And Volatile, when a Pyrovore is slain, roll a dice. On a 4-up, it bursts in a shower of acid. The nearest unit within 3 inches suffers a mortal wound. Cool. Up next, the Hero Specs. The Hero Specs got significantly more expensive, I remember. Yes, cheaper. It was the only thing that actually got cheaper, I believe. It's now 198 points, and it used to be 267. It has Acid Blood, Frenzy Death Throws. If a Hero Specs is reduced to 0 wounds, roll a dice before removing the model from the battlefield. On a 6, it lashes out, Death Throws, does D3 more wounds. Rapacious Hunger. Each time a Hero Specs slays an enemy model with its Ravenous Maw, it can immediately make 1 extra attack with its Shoveling Claws. In addition, at the end of the fight phase in which Hero Specs slews an enemy model with its Ravenous Maw, it regains 1 wound lost earlier in the battle. The Grasping Tongue. So the Ravenous Maw is Strength User, AP -1, DD3. Make D3 hits for each attack, made with this weapon instead of 1. So cool. Give me 1 extra attack with Shoveling Claws. Shoveling Claws are Strength ×2, AP -3, DD3. So cool. Gargoyles. So now we're going to go into the fast attack slots. This video is going to be a long one, but that's okay. Fast attacks are where this codex is always very thin in choices, in my opinion. Now that they removed a bunch of things from it, because now the 2 flying monstrous creatures are in flyers, and they removed. They also removed strikes and sky slashers. So there's really not a lot to the fast attacks. There's gargoyles, which are awesome. The big thing about them is they can deep strike. They can deep strike well with your Hive Tyrant, and that's great. Gargoyles are still the same points cost. I believe you have 6 points a model. They can deep strike, and yeah, that's great. They're like a flying Termagant, which is cool. They can move, 12 inches, or deep strike if you want to bring them in synergy with your Hive Tyrant. Raveners, let me see here. Raveners are the same. They're still, quicker warriors, 23-inch movement. Death from above before deployment, you can set, they can essentially be set up 9 inches away from your opponent. The Red Terror, no real change to the Red Terror. He's a single model, he's moving 12 inches, weapon skill 3 up, skill 4 up, strength 5 times 5, 6 wounds, 4 attacks, leadership 7, 4 up save, and he can once again deep strike or be set up 9 inches away from your opponent. Swallow Whole, if 4 or more of the Red Terror's Scything Talons attacks hit the same unit, instead of causing damage normally, it can attempt to swallow a victim whole. Roll a d6, and if the result is equal to or higher than the highest wounds characteristic of the unit, one model is slain. Feeding Frenzy, you can add 1 to hit rolls in the fight phase for friendly High Fleet Ravener units or within 6 inches of the model. There's Mucilid Spores and Spore Mines as well. So Spore Mines are cool. They float down, they have floating death, or because they explode. A Spore Mine explodes if it's within 3 inches of an enemy unit. At the end of any charge phase, each time a Spore Mine explodes, roll a d6. On a 1, nothing happens. 2 to 5, 1 mortal wound. On a 6, d3 mortal wounds instead. Living Bombs. Spore Mines automatically pass morale tests. Furthermore, Spore Mines are discounted for the purposes of any victory condition. Their destruction never awards victory points. Cool. So that's the fast attack. I'm just going to stop for a second and grab a drink because I've been talking for 50 minutes straight. Cool. So now we're up to heavy support choices. one of my favorite sections of this entire codex is always the heavy support, because there's a lot of fun things that cause damage. You know, yeah, they're just fun stuff. I really like this codex and the heavy support choices, and I like the fact that they brought back the heads and the carapace choices for Carnifexes. I don't know if you guys know this. For those who don't know, back in 4th edition, and I think it ended in 4th edition, just before 5th edition, I'm pretty sure. The heads that a Carnifex had dictated its special abilities, and the carapace that a Carnifex had dictated its special abilities, and they brought it back for this codex. I'm really happy they did, because all those bits just went to waste whenever you bought the Carnifex packages. Now you can actually magnetize them, do a lot of stuff with them. So Exocrine and Tyrannifex both got much more expensive. Exocrine is now 216 points. Tyrannifex is now 181 points, so only 7 points more expensive. The reason why they got better is, I guess, in combination with a few things. Number one, if you give them the right high fleet power, they can shoot a lot. And then +1, or reroll ones. Cool. The big thing about Exocrine and Tyrannifex is that if you don't move them, they can shoot twice. Exocrine has a bioplasmic cannon, 36-inch range, heavy 6, strength 7, AP -3, D2. And as I said, so his ballistic skill is only 4 up though, at full health. So that's pretty weak. So only at half the things. It's heavy 6, but still. And if he doesn't move, he gets to fire twice. And you can also add 1 to his hit rolls in the following shooting phase if he doesn't move. So the big thing is in that case is, let's say you give him that high fleet power reroll 1s, right? So he's actually hitting on 3s, which is pretty nice. So reroll 1s, hitting on 3s. 6 shots, can fire twice. You can do some damage. D2 each. Tyrannifex, I think I like the Tyrannifex. I have a kit here that I was debating whether or not to build as a Tyrannifex or a Turbogon. Now, based on the previous index, I didn't like either of the choices. But I think I'm going to build it as a Tyrannifex. The reason is I really, really like the new Rupture Cannon. The Rupture Cannon has gotten a great change to it. Now, one of the changes that the Tyrannifex had between 7th and 8th edition is that the Tyrannifex is now a 3-up armor save. It used to be a 2-up armor save, and I really liked it when it had a 2-up armor save. Let me see, did they take it off in this part? I think it was the last, yeah. It was between 7th and 8th. They nerfed his armor save. He still has 14 wounds, and he's toughness 8. I really like his option for his Rupture Cannon. Now, as I said, Tyranids need D6 damage. They really do. They need something that they can shoot or cause D6 and maybe get lucky and destroy some stuff, like plasma guns. Tyrannifex is that answer, because now the Rupture Cannon is a 48-inch range, heavy 3, strength 10, AP -3, D6 weapon. Once again, I have to say that, of course, he's at ballistic skill 4 up. So he's hitting on 4s regardless, still. But if it does not, he does not suffer the penalty to hit rolls for moving and firing heavy weapons. If the model does not move, you can fire twice, and so that's pretty nice. So you get 6 shots if you don't move, heavy 6 essentially, 4s to hit, strength 10, AP -3, DD6. Now I think you can combine this, I guess, with that other stratagem, and it'd be D6 plus 1 damage. That's pretty nasty. So that can do some damage. I like that. He's a bit expensive. A Tyrannifex now is pretty expensive. Tyrannifex. 181 points. So as I said, plus guns, weapons, and stuff. But still, I really do like the Rupture Cannon. I think that's an answer. There's the Flesh Borer Hive too, but I don't think the Flesh Borer Hive will be as important anymore, especially if you take them with cheap Carnifexes, which I'll go over in a second. They are cheap. So it's like 110 points, less than 110 points, or roughly 110 points for a Carnifex. That roughly 110 points, between 105 and 120. For a Carnifex that has enhanced senses, so it's hitting on 3s with 24 shot devourers. That's pretty hilarious stuff. Hilarious stuff. So next we have biovores. Biovores are cool. I'm going to build some. They shoot, their spore mine launchers. Biovores got more expensive, 50% more expensive. In fact, they are now 36 points. They used to be 24. They have, they can launch spore mines, and that's cool. And then they land, and they can possibly destroy your opponent. Yeah. Toxicrine. So toxicrines are cool. They're still, the giant amounts of tentacles. And I love my Toxicrine. I'm going to try them out in games coming up. Toxicrines did not change in points. No, they did. Sorry, they got more expensive as well. So there were a bunch of change. Most of the expensive things got more expensive in the heavy support choices. But Toxicrines are now 157 points, and still has choking spores, assault D6, strength 3, DD3. You can reroll failed to wound rolls for this weapon. In addition, units attacked with this weapon do not gain any bonus for saving throws. For being cover, it's an assault D6, 12-inch range gun. And then he has the massive toxic lashes, strength user, which is 7 starting with full wounds. AP -2, D3. You can reroll failed wound rolls with this weapon. A model armed with this weapon always fights first in the fights phase, even if it didn't charge. Is acid blood, hypertoxic miasma at the end of the fight phase. Roll D6 for each enemy model that within 1 inch of the Toxicrines. On a 6, that model suffers a mortal wound. And so he's cool. He's a good close combat monster. Him combined with a Sporocyst, maybe, or a Sporocyte, giant spores. Sporocyst might help. But next we have my favorite choice from this codex and the heavy support choices right now. It's a Carnifex. I love them. They are going to be so high on demand. Every time a new codex comes out, basically a week ahead of time, that it's good because everything of goodness disappears from the GW website. Right now it's Carnifexes. Carnifexes have gotten really cheap and really versatile. You can kit them out, and as I said, by bringing back the heads, by bringing back the carapaces, you can actually create a bunch of different Carnifexes. Plus, there's actually a few different types of Carnifexes already in this codex, but you can kit them out hilariously. They got really cheap. Carnifex now is only 67 points. It's still 67 points base. Give it 24 shot devourers, and it's hilarious. So you have a few choices. Now, let me pull them up. Let me pull this up. The choices, they are, sorry, I gotta find them. There we go. So, you can kit them out with a few different things. Abilities. You can give them enhanced senses. A Carnifex with enhanced senses has a ballistic skill 3-up. Sporocysts, your opponent must subtract 1 to hit rolls for range rolls against a Carnifex with Sporocysts. This is not cumulative with the penalties for its shrouding spores. Tusks, you can tusks right on his head. You can add 1 to the attacks characteristic of the Carnifex with tusks in the fight phase if it charged in the preceding charge phase. Chitin Thorns, at the end of the fight phase, roll a d6 for each enemy unit within 1 inch of the models within Chitin Thorns. On a 6, it suffers a mortal wound. So that's pretty cool. And plus, you can take a brood of them. So you take 3 Carnifexes, they take up 1 slot, but when you set them up, they count as individuals after you put them on the table. So I really like that. The fact that they're bringing back and also there's the Sky Screamer ones, the Screamer Killer Carnifexes, and as well as the Thornbacks. So you have tons of options when it comes to Carnifexes, and I really love the fact that you can just make them really kitted out however you want. I'm going to be taking Dakafexes and trying them out because 24 shots, hitting on 3-ups, it's great. Combine that with the Stratagem, so it's D2. I guess I wouldn't use it on them. I'd use the Flyrants first because it's better to hits. No, same to hits. Yeah, they're both 3-up. Oh yeah, take either one. Yeah, either one's great. They have Spine Banks, which are 6-inch range, Assault 4, Strength 5, AP nothing, D1. The weapon can be fired within 1 inch of enemy unit and can target enemy units within 1 inch of friendly units, so people in combat. It has a Bone Mace, which is a melee weapon. Strength, range melee, type melee, Strength 8, AP -1, DD3. Each time the bear fights, it can make 1 and only 1 attack with this weapon. This is in addition to the bear's attacks. Monstrous Acid Maw. Strength user, AP -5, DD3. Cool. Monstrous Crushing Claws. Strength ×2, AP -3, D3. When attacking this weapon, you must subtract 1 from the hit roll. Once again, though, if you're combining that with an old one-eye, you're in great shape. Monstrous Scything Talons are Strength user, AP -3, and Strength is 6. D3. You can reroll hit rolls of 1 with this weapon if this bear has more than 1 pair of Monstrous Scything Talons, which is its weapon skills 3 up, or sorry, 4 up. Once again, with old one-eye, it's great. It can make 1 additional attack with this weapon each time it fights if it has more than 1 pair of Monstrous Scything Talons. So as I said, there's tons of kit bashing that you can do with Tyranid Carnifexes, and I love it. Up next we have the Screamer Killer Carnifexes. Now a Screamer Killer Carnifex is 90 points, but it comes kitted out with a Screamer Killer is 90 points, and it has Bioplasmic Scream and 2 pairs of Monstrous Scything Talons. So it's a close combat Carnifex. The Bioplasmic Scream is 18-inch range, Assault D6, Strength 7, AP -4, D1. Cool. Monstrous Scything Talons, as we went over. Instinctive Behavior, a Living Battering Ram, of course, Monstrous Brood. The first time this unit is set up, of course, you can, set it up once and then they're each their own guys. Spore Cysts, your opponent must subtract 1 from their hit rolls for ranged weapons that target a Screamer Killer with Spore Cysts, not cumulative with Shrouding Spores. And Terrifying, your opponent must add 1 to any morale test for any units within 8 inches of 1 or more Screamer Killer Carnifexes. And then we also have the Thornback Carnifexes. Thornback Carnifexes are 70 points each. They are, each one is armed with a pair of Monstrous Scything Talons, 2 Devourers with Branding Worms, and Chitin Thorns. So it's a combination of shooting and close combat. The Devourer with Branding Worms are Assault 6, but you get 2 of them, as I said. Strength 6, D1. So that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. So I really like that. And once again, it's 12 shots, and then they're a combination of close combat and shooting. Thorned Battering Ram. When a Thornback finishes a charge move, roll D6. On a 4-up, the enemy unit within 1 inch suffers a mortal wound. Infantry units instead suffer D3 mortal wounds. In addition, add 1 to the hit rolls for the fight phase the Thornback charge in that turn. Monstrous Brood. Chitin Thorns, at the end of the fight phase, roll a d6 for each enemy unit within 1 inch of any models within Chitin Thorns. On 6, it suffers a mortal wound. Enhanced Senses, Thornback with Enhanced Senses has a skill of 3 up. And Vicious Hunter. Enemy infantry units never gain any bonus for their saving throws or being in cover against attacks made by Thornback. So good. Cool combination. Awesome sauce. As I said, Carnifexes are really, really cool in this edition. Up next, we have the Mawloc. Mawloc is still 104 points. I'm not a fan of the Mawloc, to be honest. I don't like him compared to before land and destroy your opponent, kill him. Now it's just a lot of, it's actually become kind of a weird hassle. Now when the Mawloc fights, now it does have 7 attacks, so I gotta give it props. 7 attacks, and the Mawloc is 104 points. I'm gonna try him out, but I just don't like him on paper. He's only weapon skill 4 up at full wounds, and he pops up and he does some stuff, but then he can't attack that turn, and that's kind of annoying to me. He can't charge the turn he comes in, and he's probably going to cause 2 to 3, 1 or D3 mortal wounds when he comes in. And he has 5 different ways he can attack, and each time he attacks, he makes 1 and only 1 of each one. The Biostatic Rattle, the Distensible Jaws, the Prehensile Pincer Tail, or does he come with 1? No, Distensible Jaws. Yeah, it's just confusing as heck. So yeah, he just attacks with each one. I'm as I said. Leave comments in the comment section below what you think about the Mawloc. I don't know. I'm not the biggest fan of the Mawloc. That's okay. Trigon Prime are awesome. They're huge improvements from 7th edition to 8th edition. I really love the Trigon Prime. Now, that being said, both of them went up in points. The Trigon is now 108 points, went up 5 points, and the Trigon Prime is now 138 points, went up by 13. That being said, they're both solid choices. Trigon Prime, to me, I love because of the 12-inch ranged Assault 12 gun that he has, plus the fact he's a Synapse creature, and he has Subterranean Assault. So basically, he can pop up and things can pop up around him, which is pretty sweet. He has Biostatic Rattle, Massive Scything Talons, which are a strength user, AP -3 DD6. So in close combat, he gets 6 attacks. hitting on 3 up at his full strength weapon skill. And yeah, it's pretty awesome because then he gets to reroll the hit rolls of 1, and he gets an additional attack. So because he has 3 sets, right? So he has 3 pairs of some, so he actually gets 7 attacks on the charge, or even anytime. Hitting on 3s, wounding on, he's strength 7, so probably 3s against most things. And he does D6, so he'll eat vehicles. He'll kill vehicles. Like he'll be wounding on 4s, but then D6, you roll a bunch of them, maybe he'll roll a couple 6s, boom goes the vehicle. Boom goes the dynamite. Prehensile pincer tail, each time the bear fights, he can make 1 and only 1 attack with his weapon, which is strength user DD3. This is in addition to the bear's attacks. Maybe I misread the Moloch. No, it must be made. Yeah, that's what I thought. And Prehensile pincer tail and toxin spike. Each time the bear fights, he can make 1 and only 1 attack with his weapon, which is strength 1 DD3. This is in addition, bear's attacks always wounds targets other than vehicles on 2 up. Cool. So yeah, Shadow and Warp, Synapse, Subterranean Assault. He's great. He's a heavy support choice, which will keep your guys in line, being a Synapse creature, and he'll eat vehicles for breakfast. Up next we have the Tyrannocyte. We're now in the vehicle column. So the Tyrannocyte is the spore, right? It's the drop pod of the Tyranid army. Tyrannocytes did not change in cost, and they really didn't change too much either. You can put a monster creature or with a wounds characteristic of 14 or less inside it, or up to 20 models in a squad. Drop it in 9 inches away from your opponent. They jump out, more than 9 inches away from your opponent, and life's good. They have 5 sets of Death Spitters. Death Spitters are Assault 3, Strength 5, AP -1, D1, so 15 shots. Cool. And Barb Strangler, Assault, or you can give it a Barb Strangler instead. Salty 6, Strength 5, AP -1, D1. You can add 1 hit rolls when attacking units of 12 or more models. Cool. As I said, it's a monster creature. It has 12 wounds, and you drop them on the battlefield for 98 points, I believe they are. Tyrannocytes are 98 points, yeah. Up next, we have the 2 flying guys. They're now flyers. That makes sense to me. They deserve to be in flyers. Harpy and Hive Crone, both of which got significantly more expensive. Harpy's now 121 points. Hive Crone is now 153 points. So, because maybe they did some other things to them that I don't notice, but yeah, they are. Harpy can move up to 30 inches at full wounds. Weapon skill 4 up, ballistic skill 4 up. Strength 6, toughness 6, 12 wounds, 3 attacks, leadership 9, 4 up save. He's armed with 2 Stranglethorn cannons and Scything Wings. It can also fire Stinger salvos. The Stranglethorn cannons are Assault D6, Strength 7, AP -1, D2. You can add 1 hit rolls to the weapon when attacking a unit with 10 or more models. So that's pretty good. 2 of those per turn. 2 D6 shots. Nice. Sonic Screech when a Harpy successfully charges. Until the end of the enemy turn, within 1 inch cannot be chosen to fight until the end of the turn, enemy units within 1 inch cannot be chosen to fight until all other eligible ones do so. It can fire Spore Mines. Harpy can drop Spore Mines if it flies over enemy units during the movement phase. To do so, after the Harpy has moved, pick 1 enemy unit that it flew over and roll a d6 for each model in that unit, up to a maximum of 3 dice. Each time you roll 4 up, a Spore Mine has hit the target and explodes. Roll a d6 to find out how much damage. On a 1, does nothing. 2 to 5, 1 more wound. On a 6, d3 more wounds. And if it fails, place a Spore Mine. Hive Crone can, once again, same characteristics, up to 30-inch movement, weapon skill 4 up, ballistic skill 4 up at full wounds, strength 6, toughness 6, 12 wounds, 3 attacks, leadership 9, 4 up save. It's armed with a Drool Cannon, Tentaclids, Scything Wings, and a Wicked Spur. Drool Cannon is 8-inch range, assault D6, strength 6, AP -1, D1, automatically hits its target. Stinger Salvo, 24-inch range, assault 4, strength 5, AP -1, D1. Tentaclids, 36 in range, assault 4, strength 5, AP nothing, D1. You may reroll hit rolls with this weapon against units that can fly. In addition, the target is a vehicle. You can make a wound roll 4 up. It suffers 1 more wound in addition to any other damage. If you make a wound roll 6 up, inflict D3 more wounds instead. Scything Wings, for both of them, have Scything Wings, and it's strength melee, range melee, type melee of course, strength user, AP -1 D3. You can reroll to hit rolls of 1 with this weapon. And Wicked Spur for the Hive Crone, each time, strength 8, AP -3 D3. Each time the bear fights, it can make 1 and only 1 attack with this weapon. This is in addition to the bear's attacks. Cool. And finally, the Spore Assist, which is now a fortification. Cool, because the Spore Assist is like the other thing you can build with the same kit as the sorry, I'm losing my mind here. I've gone through a lot. Tyranid. So the Spore Assist is, did they change it at all? Nope, still 79 points, not much of a change. Still has single mark, it's armed with a Spore Node and 5 Death Spitters. Spore Node being heavy 1, but each time the Spore Node attack hits its target, roll a d6 to find out how much damage is inflicted on the unit. On a 1, it doesn't do anything. On 2 to 5, d3 mortal wounds. On a 6, d6 mortal wounds. Cool. Awesome stuff. And that's it. So that's the Tyranid Codex in a nutshell. I really hope you enjoyed this Codex review. Leave comments in the comment section down below what you think overall. As I said, I went over it for over an hour just talking about different things. What I love about the Codex, Carnifexes got cheap and really customizable. Tons of choices for great HQ choices, tons of choices for heavy support, and Genestealers are awesome. Warriors are pretty good. Hormagaunts and Termagants are awesome. The new stratagems are really cool, especially in combination with some of the new rules for the other things. DAC effects are back, and Hive Tyrants are going to be hilarious as well. The new Psychic Powers, there's really not, I don't know. I really just think the new Psychic Powers Catalyst is going to be an auto-include, and Psychic Scream probably are the two that I'm going to use the most. Out of the stratagems, I really, really like them. And then so there's current debate. I really like to see how they do with the Endless Swarm and those kind of ones. Do you actually have to pay for points ahead of time, or can you just bring them back automatically? Yeah, we'll see. They took out a couple things. They took away the Shrikes. That's unfortunate. But the rules are good. I think that they're going to be up, and I think the Tyranifex is going to be the next thing I build for my army after I'm done painting my guys. Because Tyranifex is a new Rupture Cannon. I think him in the backfield, just shooting stuff, hopefully getting lucky and killing some stuff, will be really helpful. So, stay tuned for more Codex reviews. What do you think? Leave comments in the comment section down below what you think about the new Tyranid. I was going to call it the new Carnifex Codex, the new Tyranid Codex. I think I like it. The more I read it, I think it's definitely an improvement over the previous one. Some of the nerfs are unfortunate, but they made Hive Tyrants and Swarm Lords more survivable and nerfed them a little bit as well. Points costs, anything that changed tend to go up, but a lot of the upgrades went down. So, thank you as always to all my Patreon subscribers. This is a free content video, so a huge thank you to them. They support my videos, and it's through Patreon that I'm able to do these Codex reviews. Stay tuned for more Codex reviews. As you can see, all their names go by my head. Can't thank them enough. Huge thank you to all my Patreon subscribers. Stay tuned for more videos, and like something this is Jay saying, happy painting, and enjoy the new Tyranid Codex.